Hi, everyone. Dr. Liz here. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast. I'm glad you're here, glad you're listening and learning, and hopefully it will help you with your journey along the way. I am a psychotherapist with a specialty in anxiety, insomnia, and deeper emotional healing. Hypnosis is one of the tools in my toolbox that I use to help people feel better and to help people be better. I do work all over the world. Please feel free to reach out and contact me if you would like some help. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life, built an award-winning company, sold it, and then focused mainly on my private practice. That gives you a unique perspective, especially my ability to work with people in business at all kinds of levels. Before I go, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can go and subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll get free hypnosis downloads that you can listen to immediately. Another way is to buy one of the downloads that I have for sale. I only have a couple up there, but they're good ones. They've stood the test of time. I made the decision to not run ads during my podcast because I really do see it as an act of service. I completely respect people who do have ads on their podcast, but it's just not my path. All right, everyone, enjoy the episode. And I hope to see you back here soon. Hey everyone, Dr. Liz here. I do not quite sound like myself because I am recovering from pneumonia the past 10 days. So there has been a little bit of a delay on the podcast getting episodes out. But I finally have a little energy back. And I wanted to air the interview I did with Dionne Eleanor. She is lovely, and we talk all about her body sage method, as well as wander into some business topics and some things that happen to us in our personal lives. So I hope you enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed speaking with her. Hope you're healthy and safe. Peace. Hi, Dionne. Welcome to the Hypnotize Me podcast.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad we finally connected. We had a couple of reschedules in here because of both of our busy schedules, but finally we're here together.
Yes.
So why don't you let the audience know a little bit about yourself and then how it led to the method that you've created, the body sage method.
Okay, well, thank you. So, for those listening, my name is Dionne Eleanor. I was born in the UK from parents that I would say are dominantly from the Caribbean. So I would be considered first and a half generation born in the UK. And I share that because I think it has a significant part of the work that I've ended up doing today, being very much focused around trauma-informed healing and integrative wellness. So the Body Sage method, or the Body Sage, is my organization. And the Body Sage method is really a combination of using rapid transformation therapy, which is a form of hypnotherapy, and combining that with somatic work and relationship skills training. It's for me, I don't really feel like I've created the method. I've just put things together in a very specific way, and called it my own, because there is an order and a sequence to the way that I work. But I do want to give a lot of respect to my mentors that have taught me the original modalities. And I think that's the way life goes, right? Where we are constantly evolving through case study, through research, and through testing how things can help people. And so with that, then my focus is predominantly on women. I would say women 35 to 45, sometimes a little bit older, sometimes a little bit younger. And then I work with them, and then I also work with their partners. So again, this comes back to why I call it a specific method. So rather than just doing the work with women, I integrate partner work or potential partner work if they're dating as part of the system. And my focus really is on helping women that have had some type of significant trauma or change connected with their bodies. especially around child release. And I use child release very intentionally because there's a huge focus in our world still on childbirth. And I think it's still a little bit of a taboo about things like miscarriage, abortion, and child loss. And so I really support women in all of those areas, and saying child release rather than childbirth and loss just makes it easier to contain in one sentence. I work with the women for a period of time in an area of empowerment and combination of, we'll work together alternate weeks. And 1 week we'll work with the mind, 1 week we'll work with the body. And then after a certain period of time, then we'll start to integrate work with the partner, so that if they are in a relationship or they want to be in a relationship, so they're not kind of going on this upward trajectory and evolving and their partner feels left behind, or then they've got issues then relating and integrating with the world around them. So
Do
yeah.
you find the partners are very willing to do this with them, or do you have to sometimes, let's say, encourage them?
Yeah, I mean, it really is case by case. I would say that a lot of the time, in my experience, the couples, when it comes to couples work, the partners being quite willing, and maybe like had a silent desire. But the hurdle comes with just making sure that that partner feels that there's a trust there, and that I'm not going to just side with the female partner, especially because I'm in a female body, and because they know that I've done a certain degree of work with the partner already. And so the way that I address that is through clear guidelines written in black and white, before the clients work with me, about boundaries, about consent, about what's shared, what is not, when it's shared, when it's not. And then I do have one-on-one sessions with, usually I'm working with heterosexual couples, not always. I have worked with people of different sexual orientations, and with that, then we're just looking at polarity, because there's masculine and feminine energy in everybody. Right. And so it's just building that trust and having those one-on-one sessions with them, so that they've got time to share things that they wouldn't necessarily share in the sessions when their partner is present. And usually it happens all the time, both ways, but definitely for the masculine partner, they're a little bit more reserved to share some things. And then what I can do is, from those one-on-one sessions, I can gracefully and artfully weave in some couples work that I focused on resolving some of the challenges that he might face.
Okay, got it. Where does your couples training come from? Did you train originally in couples and then this evolved as part of this method, or you just found like, oh, this is really necessary part of the work that I'm doing?
Yeah, I would say that it's a case that I found that was really necessary. Before starting this, my very first wellness modality was actually teaching yoga. So a lot of people know me around the world for teaching yoga and meditation, and before that, I was in corporate. And so that gave me a good foundation of awareness of the body, mindfulness, and just getting into the industry in general. It was never my intention, actually. I just fell in love with it, became obsessed with it because of how it helped me heal my own self from spinal disorders and different things. And then it started doing it more. And then as I was working as a teacher and as I was practicing, I started to feel like, why are all these amazing people single or having relationship issues? Like, they're good people, they are working on themselves, they say that they have good morals and all of this. So I started to get really interested in relationships, and I'd always had a little bit of a interest in relationships and sexuality. I remember as a child I used to not study, but look up anatomy parts, and I was fascinated by my parents' relationship and their sex life, which seemed, if I look back now, I don't know if my memory is totally accurate, but like, they seem to have a good time. And so I was just really intrigued by love and by relationships in general. And so I already had that passion there. And then I did some studies with Layla Martin, who has a certification in relationship, sexuality, and tantra coaching. I also studied with a mentor Layla Martin's based in the US. I studied with a mentor in Portugal, Peter Littlejohn Cook, and that was focused on Tantra. And then I did some workshops and trainings with Jason Gaddis, who is the founder of the Relationship School. I believe he is based out of Colorado. And that was really based on more relationship psychology and skills training. And
Yeah.
so those are just to name a few, but it's I find with relationships, it's definitely an art and an ongoing study. And I think combined with my passion and these educational areas, that's what gave me the foundation. I did also study psychology, not to degree level, but A level, we call it in the UK. So I had a bit of foundation there in terms of the way the
Yeah.
mind thinks in general and in relationships.
Yeah. How did you discover the RTT training? Because it's a very specific certification method, something like within hypnosis. So how did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was phones listening and seeing an advertisement,
Yeah, probably right.
and then clicking through. And I mean, how would I describe myself as a purchaser? I think I'm one of those people that I have great intuition. I do trust my intuition, but I still I'm very happy that I can speed read because I definitely still love to check terms and conditions, refund policy, ask all the difficult questions. So it wasn't a quick decision. But what I was really drawn to with RTT was, I think I had a bias because Marissa Peer, who founded it, she's from the UK. So there's
Yeah.
definitely there that. But I was also drawn to the fact that of the results. It said that, talking about rapid results, because no matter how much you try and encourage people that you work with that things take time, they always want things quicker. So I was very intrigued by being able to bring in a method that might help speed things up for people that just don't have that time or don't feel they have that time.
Yes.
I was also intrigued by the fact that there was cognitive behavioral therapy intertwined into the technique, which I feel is really important,
Mhm.
and gave a solid foundation. And then also the neurolinguistic programming for changing the language. It felt quite comprehensive.
Yeah.
And then looking at the way that the course was led at that time, not when I started my course, but after I had started and I was continuing learning. And the CPD part, after I got my certification, it was pandemic time. And so I really appreciated how there was this up to date, how would you call it, up to date initiative from the team at Marissa Peer to say, okay, how can we bring this online in a safe way, in an effective way, in a way where we're not making false promises? Do people need more sessions? So it felt really, really good, and it also felt really balanced, that there wasn't these false promises like, oh, you're going to be a hypnotist and then you're going to save people from this and that. It was very the way that it was, I was spoken to about it and sold to, you could say, about it, was in a very grounded way. So that gave me trust in sort of taking it on board as another.
Yeah. I am part of a Facebook group like Women in Hypnosis. It's only women in that group, and she consistently gets rave reviews for her program,
Ah,
her training,
yeah,
and her
yeah,
techniques. Actually, like people will reference her techniques all the time because
yeah,
people will post questions. What do I do in this case, or something like that? And yeah, consistently they reference
yeah.
her.
Yeah, I would say she really also embodies her work, right? Like she's confident, but she admits when she's not confident. And she's a realist about things, and really encouraging people to step into an edge, but also do things safely and know when to safeguard, know when to signpost,
Yes.
um, making sure that you actually practice like live real sessions. And then, when I was studying, it was working with people on real issues, and then having those, it felt I'm laughing because I remember feeling like the fear at the time, but having the videos analyzed and the script analyzed, and to every detail, oh, your voice. I think one of the feedback I had was that my voice was a little too happy. And I was like, but I like my voice, so, and just real honest, grounded feedback.
Mhm.
And I think actually when I was coming towards the end of my actual certification and the time, there wasn't this rush, because obviously it's in they have a vested interest to certify people, right? And in terms of incentives. But I remember being very close to that deadline and getting feedback that I had a little bit of work to do, like quite a bit of work to do. Like I passed everything, I could tick all the boxes,
Mhm.
but if I wanted to really get the deep transformation that I wanted to get for people, especially with complex issues like severe trauma and PTSD, I do need to make sure that I work on this. And there was this offering from one of the mentors within the team for me to even have even more practice experience. And I really liked that because it would have been so easy for them to have said, you've done your certification,
Yeah.
keep practicing. There you go. I did get my certification, but it was, there was also very, very clear and healthy responsibility their side.
Fantastic. Good. It's good to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I imagine it was quite a nice integration with your yoga experience. I taught yoga for 20 years, and hypnosis is far more about the body, I think, than people realize. Like when
yeah,
people think about hypnosis, they think about just the mind, like, oh, I'm going to use my mind to, get very, sometimes it's not so quick, but that's often the desire to get a quick response. It often
mhm,
is the result, but sometimes it's a little bit, slower than quick, let's say, or it takes a little bit
yeah.
longer than that. But typically, it's like the transformation that occurs is not just the mind, it's the body as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that the way people stand after a session, even if you've not worked on something to do with their posture, like they stand
Yeah.
differently, their eyes are different. One of my coolest memories with hypnosis, very, very early, once I had qualified in it and started working, I had a client that wanted me to help him to stop smoking. And so part of the visualization when I was doing the rewire of the belief, I had him walk through a town that was full of smoke and everything like that, things burning down. And when he woke up, he had not cognitively remembered. Some people
Mm.
remember, some people don't. It
Yeah.
was like, I just feel like, I don't know where I went. I feel really good though. But I said, I just feel like my eyes are burning and like I've been walking through fire. And I was like, well, you kind of have, you know. And his eyes were a little bit red. And actually at this point, I think it's important maybe for the listeners, it's maybe something that you've mentioned already, because one of the things I have come up with hypnosis with new clients is fear about forgetting or not knowing what's going on. And
Yeah.
um, I was always trained to make sure that there was a prompt in there for people to keep themselves safe. That, like, if they hear anything, that they're in control, that they can come out at any time, and things like that. And it really is,
Absolutely.
repeated so that people know that. I haven't had anyone come out of hypnosis, but I have, I've had someone say, "I don't want to answer that," right? And so there is, people do have control in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And it depends what type we're doing, but often when we're doing some habit change things, it's recorded. And so I say you can always go back and listen to the recording. Sometimes when we're doing, let's say, deeper work or where we're changing beliefs or going back in time, which we call regression, that's not recorded, but if someone wants me to, I absolutely will. Like if they
Yeah.
feel
Same.
comfortable so that they
Yeah.
can go back and listen, it's an absolute yes. Like absolutely. Yes, so that you feel
Yes.
safe, so that you know
Yes.
I'm doing my job here. Totally fine. And it's not something that I take personally. That's people have different levels of trust that is based
Exactly.
on their own history in life. So yeah, it's a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
body sage method, can you tell us more about your actual method?
I typically work with people for a minimum of 3 months, sometimes six. When somebody is very new, let's say new, when I say very new, like I've never had any contact with them before, I usually do suggest 3 months for the purity of safety. Sometimes I'll suggest 6 months if I see it's a very big issue, multiple issues.
Yeah.
But I usually ask for a 3 month window just so there's space for the sessions, space for integration and questions in between,
Mhm.
and to fit the partner in there as well, because it's really not a lot of time. Even 3 months, when you're working with someone bi-weekly. I
Yeah.
either work bi-weekly, or if somebody's got a little bit more challenges, and I'll do a session every 10 days, so they'll have three
Mhm.
sessions in the month.
Yeah.
the first week, actually, I say bi-weekly, but the first week we have 2 sessions. So we're really like hitting the ground running, and doing, I tie in ritual work as well. So we open with a ceremonial way where I have a script that I design that's personalized for the person, that we're stepping into a new area of their life of transformation, that they commit to it fully, and so on. I put them in a meditative but not hypnotic state, for that. And the
Beautiful.
work that I'm doing, with the method is predominantly online, but sometimes people do come in person for some intensive, 3 days or mini retreats as well. Following that, then we'll rotate between sessions that are based on the, I call body weeks, somatic weeks, and then brain weeks, which they get the chance to, with the brain weeks, we'll get in the chance to actually talk and do the relationship skills training and mentoring. I say mentoring rather than coaching, because my method is really focused on, after the period of time that we've worked together, you've got your own tools and system in place that you're not needing to constantly have therapy or with me, or any sessions with me, that you can sort of go and live your life. Whereas coaching is a little bit more motivational and focused on keeping us going. So I'm really like trying to teach those skills, give them those resources, those recordings if they want. So in the brain weeks where we've got relationship skills training, anything that they come up with, but I do have a focal point usually. So going back a step, when I have a consultation with somebody, a woman that I'm working with, I will listen deeply and see what is it that she actually feels that she wants to resolve in her life. So maybe, and usually there's multiple things. I'm feeling disconnected from my body. I want to lose a certain amount of weight. These are the common areas. I'm feeling disconnected in my sexuality and from my partner, like that we're okay, but there's friction and I'm scared about the relationship future. Maybe they've got something that they're feeling a bit disconnected from their own sense of purpose and legacy and what they're here to do. Like they don't just want to be defined as a mother or somebody who's gone through the trauma that they've gone through. And so then I'll bullet point out and say that these are the areas that we're going to focus on, and I'll reverse them into a positive statement. So let's say if the lady says she wants to lose 20 pounds, so we might say, okay, by X time, we are going to commit to losing this amount of weight. This is the goal in our time working together. And the other goal is to have relationship safety, again, feel good in your body, have good boundaries with your partner. So I'll reverse them. And then I'm fast forwarding now, but at the end of the period, we will review those and see what actually has been achieved. So it keeps me accountable as well as the client. And I behind the scenes, I'm reviewing mid as well and periodically to make sure that I'm actually getting the results.
Of course.
In the body weeks, we have somatics. Again, it's personalized. Now that I'm serving more people, it's still personalized, but I would definitely say that I'm seeing patterns. So I'm able then to give myself some grace and reuse certain and things that I can see working. But the somatics can be somatic therapy, sort of shaking the body, the trauma release exercise where you're shaking. It can also be mindful movement. Some people know that I'm qualified in yoga, so they really request yoga, and then it's a mindful yoga movement. And then we're also doing breath work and vocal work as well, vocal empowerment exercises. A lot of the women that I am working with, they have challenges with speaking up with confidence, and maybe they feel that they've gained a certain level of empowerment, but then it's now moving it out into the world, and that's all part of the relationship as well. Going back to the brain week, the only other thing that I do also include is ancestral intergenerational trauma work. And it's case by case. I do offer some people, if I see there's a lot of complexity in family dynamics, bonus sessions where the mother can have a session with, let's say it's me, the daughter, and the mother, so we can really do some healing on that relationship. Or maybe it's a specific child that they're having challenges with. So we call them family SOS sessions.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's really an integrative approach where we're involving all the key people, but definitely the partner, and then any key people that there's challenges for that are really affecting that woman moving forward.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments was working with a lady, and she booked with me for 6 months. During that time, she said, it was 4.5 months, and she said, I'm starting to feel like I don't need you, and I don't know if I'm going to renew. And I said, well, don't worry. I was, because she'd had coaching before, and so she knows that typically I've also received coaching, and there's nothing wrong with it. But typically, before, when you come into the end of your container, you do get reminders that you can renew. It's normal, and I think it's very healthy that the coach is or mentor is proactive, because sometimes we will just slip off and back into our own habits, right?
That's
so
true. Yeah.
so and I was like, that's great. And she was like, really? I was like, exactly. That is what I want to happen if you're genuinely feeling that way. And let's keep making sure you're getting the results that you want. Hypnosis fits into the brain weeks, but I sort of do them separately, because the rapid transformation hypnosis is a 3-hour session, and it tends to come later in the package. If it's 6 months, they get 2. If it's 3 months, they get 1. And then we'll either work on, it's case by case. It might be the same issue if they get into hypnosis sessions. It depends on how deeply rooted it is, or if something comes up after the first, or it might be 2 separate things. And we decide that a little bit. We have an idea at the beginning of the working relationship, but we might also tweak it throughout. And then the couples integration, that also comes in the final month of the 3-month container, or the final 2 months. And then they'll get 1 session a month typically with their partner, unless there's some deep issues. And then we just do an add-on. It works really well that way, because I find that, again, we're looking at I've built the trust with them, so they can go into that deep space. They can also commit that time and carve it out, because asking someone up front to get 3 hours and then listen to something each day. And then it also gives them a continuum as well. And so the hypnosis will usually come in the 3-month container 3 weeks before they finish working with me. So they'll listen to the recording for definitely whilst I'm still with them, and then they'll still be listening to it hopefully after. And then I usually check in with people after they've finished the container working with me, just to see how they are, see if there's anything that I can offer them in terms of resources that they've lost, that I've sent them, just that little bit of aftercare that I think sometimes is missing, not intentionally. Again, I really believe there's a lot of us are out there doing the best that we can, and we're just trying to develop like systems. So sometimes for some people, they do need that little bit of checking in. A lot of women, I don't know about you, but common feelings are feeling invisible, feeling unseen, feeling alone. And so them knowing that I do generally care what's going on after they've finished working with me, and they don't need to sign up to anything. They don't need to spend another dollar for me to really know they're okay. I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. In my own practice, I mean, since I hold a license, we actually have some, let's say, guidelines around we're not allowed to check on people after we finish working with them unless we have their permission to do that. And so sometimes that's how I put it. Would you like for me to check on you in a month or so? Because I can't do that unless we make the agreement for that. But it's often very, very helpful. I would say the majority of the time people say yes. Sometimes there's a no, because they feel like, nope, I'm done. I'll call you when I need you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same.
Okay.
I do definitely ask, because like you said, people they're different. They're
Right.
different.
But
And they have
I
needs, or
love
maybe
the
they're just going on
term.
vacation. And
Yeah, I love the term aftercare, though, as you put it. For some reason, when you're drawing, and I do a lot of watercolors, and it's they call it tending. Tending is those little details you go back to afterwards that you're adding that really take that to another level. And that's what visually popped up for me in terms of aftercare. Do you need a little tending? Are you okay? How are you doing? How is it going for you once you've completed this transformation?
Yeah, definitely. And a question for you on that with clients and sort of outside of sessions. It's probably something that you experience. So I'm on social media. I'm not using it too heavily. It's a nice tool, but it can be very distracting, for me personally. But I have found in my experience that people like to follow, or sometimes people have, let's say on Instagram followed me, and then I've had a client ask me, why I didn't follow them back. And I personally developed a policy where I don't follow clients right on their social media, unless the only case I would say is if we've totally finished working with each other and there's a clear purpose and consent. But a purpose might be I'm following a new business and they've asked if I can give them a like, and there's no conflict there, and there's enough time passed. But yeah, I'm curious about your experiences with that as well, with that type of side of things.
Yeah, in the US, licensed psychologists or licensed mental health counselors, LCSWs, we're actually not allowed to. I mean, it's not a law, but it's an ethical guideline that our profession. Yeah. And so I will say that in the first meeting with someone, like, it doesn't mean I don't like you or think about you. I think about you all the time, actually, but I am actually not allowed to follow you on social media. This is why, is to protect my experience of you as objective, and, there's ethical guidelines, all that stuff. So I say it up front. I say you're allowed to follow my professional accounts. I'm not allowed to let you follow any personal accounts. So that's how I put it. I am almost completely off of social media in terms of my professional accounts. Several of them got hacked. And so,
mine too.
Yeah, and it is quite a business task, actually, to keep up a social media account in terms of professionally. So finally I was like, I'm just calling it. And my business increased after that. Everybody says, oh my God, you got to have social media to have a business even. That was not my experience at all. So, which is very, very interesting to me.
That's so healing to hear, right? Because obviously we're both humans, and that's one of my standing in authenticity. I think, like, if I think of one of my younger brothers, I've got three, and at this point in his life, he's a social media superstar, and it gives him energy, and it works with his life and everything. And for me, I'm not afraid of social media. I'm not afraid of being on video, but being curious about how it's sustainable and how authentic it is. Like, I'm okay to be on there when it's authentic, but like you said, it is quite a task to do the frequency that they say is required. And one of the things I was speaking to one of my assistants about was that, okay, middle ground. Putting content out there on my page that is supportive to people, especially if I work globally and in different places. Can we develop a faceless strategy? Right, so that is what I'm working on right now. I'm super excited about that, because I'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've moved away. I've definitely gravitated away from personal shares. That there's some, but not lesser sort of purposeful and sharing something of inspiration. And I agree with you. And I agree with the ethical guidelines that I think one of the things I feel it can create is relational avoidance in the therapeutic connection and work, because in a personal relationship, right? I, for example, I've dated someone that said, oh, I saw that on your status. And then they've made an assumption of what's going on in my brain because of something they've seen on my social media, which actually was dated 1 year ago, but I'm just posting it because it made me smile today. And so it's so easy to not be objective when there's oversharing or inappropriate sharing online. And so I think and I love that that's a huge can't think of the word in English, but that's a huge, like, woo for me.
Well, I have a mentor. She sort of explained it from an energy perspective. I mean, I do keep my podcast, which is technically social media, right? Or my YouTube channel. But it was finally, my Facebook was hacked. And I did not enjoy doing this Facebook account. I did it because I felt like I had to. And whoever hacked it was getting, I mean, thousands of views on the videos they were posting. I'm like, this is great. It's just like publicity for me. But then, of course, they started posting videos I did not exactly approve of. So my mentor said, well, if you don't actually like doing that, just drop it. That's it. It's done energetically. That's not good. And for your business,
Oh,
I had to hire a hacker to hack my hacker. Okay. So I had to
okay.
hire an ethical hacker, is what they call them.
Yeah.
And to delete the account was very easy.
Uh-huh.
To get my account back was expensive and difficult. So I said, delete it.
Delete it. Yeah.
And that was that. And it was a sense of freedom, actually, that came with it.
You're also putting that energy into your clients.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. So the energy, I think, just gets shifted. So it's like
Hmm.
instead of my energy going here to something I really don't like or feel like is really even supportive of my business, then my energy is going over here. Like, my hand's going a different direction because I know this is a audio, not a video podcast.
Yeah.
Your energy just shifts into
Yeah.
something that's far more enjoyable around your business or even personally. Like, oh, it frees up all kinds of personal time for me that I don't have to do this anymore. Or even if you hire somebody, depending on what level your business is, that you don't have to supervise that person anymore,
Mhm.
or all of that. So it was very, very interesting to me, very interesting that my business actually increased after that instead of the whatever everybody tells you that it
Exactly. I
was.
love that. I love that for you. Thank you. I do have another question. I know that you've got questions as well, but I think also, I don't know if you've been asked this before, but I feel it's an important question. And it is something that I've experienced with my method. And actually, right now, I'm changing things in my business for example, my domain will go to the body sage, and the method will still be considered a method, but within my business, so people really understand. Because one of the things I have a huge respect for is the intersection of science with modern holistic techniques.
Yes.
Um, I think there is a huge importance in what we do in the clinical way and in the licensed way. And I remember being very early into my career, even before I was doing hypnosis,
Uh-huh.
and I could technically call myself a therapist, because I'm a rapid transformational therapist.
Yes.
And then I also had qualified years back in massage therapy. So I could technically, and we see this all the time, right? That especially we were just talking about social media, people have these titles,
Mhm.
and they aren't lying, but they are unintentionally sometimes misinforming people, because I think it's just psychology. Somebody might look at me and say, she looks trustworthy, she looks like she is this type of therapist, so she's got therapist in the title, so I'm
Yes.
going to make this assumption. Something that I always make sure that I tell people up front is that I am a therapist, like like in that way, in this
Mhm.
specific way, but I'm not a licensed psychotherapist. I have got
Mhm.
X experience, I haven't got this experience, and I go through all of the safeguarding if I'm concerned, and permission for me to
Mhm.
share data and all of that with certain authorities and people. But I'm really interested in your perspective as well, like in terms of the world that we're living in now, the pros and even the areas to be mindful of people that are licensed versus non-licensed,
Uh-huh.
right? And the common things. I know I'm biased to say this, but I feel like I'm okay because I'm really cautious, right? I was cautious as I can be.
Yes.
So it's in my brain to make sure that I don't overstep. Um,
Yeah.
whereas, what do you see that is positive about my method, and where um, they could also benefit from seeing somebody that's maybe licensed or a bit more clinical, like who might be.
Yes. Okay. Got it. So let's start with, I think often people find the practitioner that they need at the time. And so
Mhm.
they do that various ways. And it is a caution to make sure that, okay, is this person trained in what I'm seeking? And are they upfront about their credentials? Like if you sense any shadiness, you got to say, okay, no, right? Like if there's any shadiness here. It varies worldwide. So in the US, there's certain guidelines of things you can actually say that you do with certain certifications, call yourself certain things and others. But there's incredible practitioners who are not psychologists or licensed therapists or licensed psychotherapists. That's an extremely long path to take, education wise, financially. And not everyone is led to take that path or wants to do that or sees like that's their path to take. They get there other ways. Originally, I think when coaching came on the scene, and therapists, licensed therapists were sort of all up in arms. Like these people are charging 3 times as us, as us. They don't have the education behind it, but yet they're doing things that therapists do. And then there became a little more guidelines around coaching, around, okay, what is appropriate and what do you need to refer to as, training programs begin to pop up and all that stuff. When someone is dealing, I think, with trauma, then you do want to know, does this person have some background in this and not just personal? Because often what I'll see for practitioners is, oh, personally, this, and happened. And so then I evolved, and it's like, okay, I understand that. And then did you seek some training around that so that you can help people? And I think an important point that you've talked about actually throughout the interview is safety. Are they setting up safety? Do they talk about how to keep you safe? Because that's a really important, is a safety factor when you're dealing with trauma. So you want to get a good sense of what does that practitioner do to create safety. I recently went to a couples intensive, like a weekend thing, and I was really drawn to the woman who was leading it, who was trained in the Terry Real system. Terry Real is BFFs with Esther Perel, who's much more popular, but he has his whole own system of couples and, how they operate and how they heal and how they stay in relationship with each other in a healthier way. And she was trained in that system. She's not a licensed therapist, but she was fantastic, fantastic, far better than her co-leader who was a therapist. Okay, because that's who she is. But also she had all kinds of training in leadership and presentation and this type of thing. But the way that she created safety, which was really important. And so that came through in her, how she led the workshop on her website, that type of thing. So I think you've got to evaluate it that way. Like, I'm led to this person. Let me look at them a little bit more. Some people are more analytical than others as well, right? So some of us want to like dig in a little bit and see, and other people are just straight intuition. Even if you're straight intuition, you still need to think about, can this person keep me safe and what are they doing to help keep me safe? And so sometimes that may be their policies, in between contact, aftercare, like you say, that type of thing. And also the feeling you get from them. I think that's really important. And often as women, I think this is drastically changing, but traditionally we were taught to ignore those feelings. And now we're absolutely raising generations of women who are taught to absolutely, you listen to those feelings, you listen to your intuition. Your intuition is your best friend. So you really want to tune into that, is how I say. Someone doesn't necessarily need to be licensed, but I think they do need the training behind it. Does that answer
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah, definitely. And I love how I'm hearing like not necessarily licensed, but the training and the practices in place to keep somebody
Yeah.
safe. And like that, not only the practices, but that energetic value in themselves, like they're
Yes.
emitting that, like that they care. And yeah, for me, that is, I think it's come through because safety is hugely important to me. It
Yes.
was a male friend that asked me, and I'll never forget it. It was after we had spent 10 days in, have you heard of the Vipassana meditation?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd spent 10 days not talking to
Right.
each
It's a
other.
silent retreat.
Yeah. But huge crush, right? So like, we're
I'll
not
tell you
talking,
what.
but telepathically like crushing on each other. It's like now, like I think it was the meditation energy,
Yeah.
raising things, because definitely not compatible for anything more than a friendship. But I'll never forget after that, he said, I had so many questions in my mind. And he said, and one of them was, how does it feel to be a woman? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to be a woman. I was like, okay. He was like, but he's like, I feel like women are always, specifically women, almost every woman that I know, not a day goes by where she's not having to think about her safety.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that really stuck with me, that if I can create a container where, at least for the most part, who I'm working with does not have to think about that for a period of time,
Yes.
that in itself is a little bit healing, right? Where they can just
Absolutely.
rest.
Yes, I love that turnaround. Yes, like this is a safe environment and
Yeah.
you don't have to think about it for the hour or two or three sometimes that you're with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean there's a young man who came to my door the other day and probably 20s in his 20s and he was asking for like food and water. And I felt so bad. I said, "Do you have a phone?" He offered work, like I'll do anything. I'll do some work for you or whatever. And it wasn't a time that I could do that. And my husband wasn't home. And I felt so bad. I said, "Do you have a phone? Can I call you later and arrange the work?" And he said, "No, I don't have a phone." I said, "I'm sorry. I can't open the door." But my daughter and her boyfriend were here, and so they went out and gave him some food and water. Okay,
Mhm.
so that would not have happened if the boyfriend wasn't here. I
Yeah.
can tell you straight up. And so I
Mhm.
heard the door click, and I was like in my office. I wasn't on with a client, but I sort of called out. I said, "Is the door locked?" to my daughter. And she said, "Yeah, it's locked. We gave him some food and water." I said, "Okay." And I said, "Bear versus man, Eva." Like, like I mean, it's a reality. And it doesn't feel good to have to say no to some food and water to a young man in need sometimes because you're
Mhm.
worried about your own safety or your daughter's safety. It's
Yeah.
he could have easily overpowered us or what I don't know once you open the door. I don't know. And
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There
right.
is a biological, talking about the body, there is a biological difference in terms of sex, the way that the body is built, and dominant areas of strength that we
Yes.
cannot deny, and something that, when I'm working with women especially, it's encouraging them that they can be empowered, and they can do things that they want to do. And I kind of say tongue in cheek, and you can and cannot have it all, right? You don't need to have it all. You don't need to have
Yeah.
every single thing or do every single thing that a man does to be worthy and to be enough, as a woman that you are. There are some things
Yeah.
that it's just like out in nature, right? The piece of concrete is not saying, "Oh, I want to desperately be a flower petal." Like, after a
Yeah.
certain point, it just, I'm concrete, right? And so,
Right. Right.
like, this is how it is.
Yes.
And so we see this lesson about, you could say, I guess, I don't know how to put it, or the laws of the universe, right? That it's okay, and we're not, inferior in that way. I think that we are, one of the best things, going back to social media
Yeah.
for just a second, that's come out of that is the vocalization. Like, there's more voices, and with that, there's more opportunities, and there is a sense of empowerment that we are starting to slowly unravel things, and people are at least being heard, and being heard is the first step to
Yeah.
changing things, and systems that aren't working. And it's a practice. Like, we are practicing in relationship with ourselves, we're practicing relationship with our partners, with our children, with our friends, and then we're practicing systemically as a community, and we're
Yeah.
not going to get it right like the first time, or
Oh
the
yeah. It's so true.
13,000s. Yeah.
Right, it is. But it's a wonderful question and a wonderful way to think of things and a way to say, okay, how do I heal in a safe way is how I hear
Hmm.
that. Right. And sometimes that is through community and other ways. Even this young man that was on my doorstep, it's like I donate monthly to feeding South Florida because that's where I was for a long time, like food and hunger. And then he shows up at my doorstep and I'm not religious, but it was around Easter. And so this religious imagery is going like how all of this stuff that's part of community. But
Hmm.
ultimately, we have to keep ourselves safe. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably that man, and he would have had a little bit of awareness, sometimes not, right, but a little bit of awareness of, and with that, like, he's stepping into courage through it, but like awareness that like people will be preoccupied a little bit with their safety, and that's part of the risk he's taking with
Yeah.
asking. And so it's like that dance, and just
Yes,
wonderful
and I
that
thought of his
was
safety
there.
too. Like, I immediately thought of where's his mother or his father? And it's
Mhm.
like, he's taking a risk with his own safety knocking on doors. And so
Exactly.
I know there's different parts of the world where it's a little bit different, but it's just not that way here where I am in North Florida. And
Yeah.
there's a sadness with it. And at the same time, you have to acknowledge just our basic needs of safety, period. But back to our body sage method. Okay.
Yes.
Back to the point of our interview. I know we strayed off here. So I really think that when you're wanting to heal on a deep level, when you're wanting to heal trauma in particular, that safety is really important. And so that is physical safety, and does a person create a sense with their policies and with their spirit, like who they are with you, like
Mhm.
how they're communicating with you. And we're not all perfect all the time. That, like you said, we do get distracted sometimes. But
Yeah.
in general, is that coming across? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dionne, we have chatted
It's
for
been
a while
great.
now. So we're coming to the end here, unfortunately, because I think I could talk to you forever. But please tell people how to find you.
Yes, definitely. Well, talking about social media, I'm
Yeah.
still currently on there, and it's just my name on Instagram, which is Dionne, Dionne, and then my second name, Eleanor_, so Dionne Eleanor. That's my Instagram, and it's also the same on LinkedIn, so you can find me on both of those platforms. I'm on Facebook as well, but I'm hardly using it. And then otherwise, if you go to my website, which is www.bodysageco, so bodysageco.com, and you can find me there.
Wonderful. And that will be in the show notes as well as the website for everyone.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
so much for being on the podcast. I am so glad it all worked out after many reschedules.
Yes, me too. It's been great. Very happy to be here. Really wonderful talking to someone that is kind of in a similar, a side by side
Yes.
ally in this
Yes.
wellness industry of supporting people around the world. And yeah, it's been really great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
I hope you truly enjoyed today's episode. Remember that you can get free hypnosis downloads over at my website, drlizhypnosis.com, DRLIZ hypnosis.com. I work all over the world doing hypnosis, so if you're interested in working with me, please schedule a free consultation over at my website, and we'll see what your goals are and if I can be of service to you in helping you reach them. Finally, if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast or tell a friend. That way, more and more people learn about the power of hypnosis. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. Peace. This podcast is not mental health treatment, nor should it replace mental health treatment. If you need therapy or hypnotherapy, please seek treatment from a trained professional.